Hi everybody, welcome back to HoloSeeker. Today we're going to be talking about how you can pre-grade your cards before sending them out to get graded by a professional company. We have an assortment of different cards here. We have everything from the Radiant to a normal holographic to a normal card to a tag team card to a V card or V-Star. Even have the VMAX, and we have an Entei over here from way back when. So we're going to be talking about the different surfaces of each of these cards, as well as what to look for when trying to submit a card with a potential to get a 10, or at least just a very high grade. So we're going to start with the normal Alcremie Rare. This is just a normal card, no holo foil or anything. And we are going to use this kind of like a test demo. As you could see right away, the centering doesn't look too good, but how would you know? You need to check out both the left and right, the top and bottom, and we'll go over the surface of the front and back as well as the corners. So let me go ahead and set up here. You want to get a clear ruler that can measure in millimeters. Right now I couldn't find mine, so all I have is this. So you do want to use the millimeter side, you don't want to use the inch side. This does have corkboard on the bottom of it, so it will protect the cards a little bit. So just go ahead and use any kind of ruler that you got. I know that there are like centering templates. I don't necessarily know too much about those, so that's why I'm sticking with the ruler. And hopefully these angles that I could get will show you. I do have a little tool that I could try to magnify with. Let's see if I can get that. It will help the viewers see what it is I'm seeing. I'm also seeing this through the camera, so if I misposition it, I'm sorry about that. So let's see if we can get this. So as you see right here, you want to line up the leftmost, I will call them ticks. So the leftmost tick you want to be on the very edge of the card. And you want to go ahead and look at that. So that's about 1, 2. It kind of looks like a weird angle, so it looks like I'm not lined up, but that is just because of that. So that was 2 millimeters about. Let's go ahead and line up the right side. The right side, as we could see, is it's not quite lined up. So, okay, there we go. And the left side was 2, so I'm assuming that the right side's going to be 3. So let's go ahead and look at this whenever the camera would like to focus. There we go. So 1, 2, and 3. So you're counting not the first tick, but every tick after that. So you have 1, 2, 3. So you have a poor centering. So it'll be about 3 on the right side, 2 on the left. So that is not perfect centering in the least. As long as you have, more or less consistent sides, so if the left and the right are both 3, the top and the bottom are both 4, or 2, or 6, or whatever, as long as the left and right are the same and the top and bottom are the same, you will always have perfect centering. If you have something like a Tag Team GX card, now there are like 2 distinct points that you could see. So the left side, if you were to measure from the innermost part, let's go ahead and see if we could get that. It looks to be about 2. Let's go ahead and see. So 1, 2, 3. So it's about 2 and almost a half. So the outermost part is 1. And you can either get the most outer part or you can get the most inner part. I recommend doing the centering for the outer part because you'll have 1 consistently on most of the cards. If you do it from the inside, so that would be about 2, maybe 3, So yeah, so 1, 2, 3. So it's about 3 on that side. Let me see if I could go ahead and show you a little bit better. So there we go. It's about 3. Yeah. And all of the outsides are going to be 1. So if you take the right side, it doesn't look like it's going to be 1. If you take all the other ones, they're more than likely going to all equal out to 3, which may trick you a little bit. Then you'll think, oh, okay, I have 3 on all of the sides. And that's not necessarily how it is. So you want to do the outermost part. So let me see if I could focus this a little bit to bring this out. It's about 1, 2, like 2.5. So that's about 3, I would say. So seeing that, you want to measure the outermost part because that will be the most accurate. Seeing that, it's about 1. Here, let's see. It's about 1.5. So closer to 2. So don't be mistaken. If you do have a half on it, if it's more clear that it's a 1 on one side and a 1.5 on the other, that is still not good centering. And that will be marked off for centering. So even though it looks like it's 1, it's really 1.5, which would be closer to 2. So the next card that I want to bring out is a VMAX. VMAXs, you don't necessarily think about it because you can see the borders on both the right, the left, and the bottom, but you can't see anything on top. There's a very weird type of effect on these cards to where you can't see the centering per se. So what you want to do is you want to look at the topmost part of the card. And wherever there is exposed borders, that's where you can get the centering. But you want to look at the topmost part of the card, like the top of the V on the VMAX or the top of the energy on the top right. So the energy is actually a decent place to start because the energy from the right part, the most right part of the energy should be more or less the same as the border. So let's see. Right here, it would be about... Let me bring this back a little bit. 1, 2. So that's about 2 there. 1, 2, maybe 3. So we'll go ahead and say it's 3. We want to go up to the energy, and let's go ahead and see this. This should be consistent. So this should be a 3. So let's see if I could get that. It'll be... See if I could focus that. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay. So that is a 3 there, and the 3 on the bottom border was 3. So since that was consistent, we'll go ahead and we'll go from the energy rather than the top of the VMAX. So if we go to the top of the energy, and you want to go to the outermost part of the energy too. You don't want to go to the middle circle part. You want to go right where that white line ends. So if we look at that, if we take it over, it'll be, let me make sure this is straight. It's there, it's about, so that's about a millimeter, as you could see from those different areas. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 4. So you wouldn't know it because most of the other areas may be all 3s, but you have the top, which is a 4, which is not good centering. So going back to the Alcremie, now we're going to talk about surface. And a good way to gauge the surface is to see the surface using light. You can use bright light and dim light. Using both types of light is beneficial because with bright light, sometimes it'll wash stuff out. With dim light, you'll be able to actually see some of the like minor scratching and stuff that's on it. So at the moment, this looks pretty decent from what I can tell. I don't see any nicks or scratches, at least on the surface of both the front and back. So that is a good way to do it. Other surfaces like holographics and stuff are going to be more reflective, and it'll make it a little bit more easy to see. Sometimes with like textured cards, it's kind of really hard. So right here, I just made a mark on the Alcremie. So as you could see, it looks perfectly fine, but the moment you tilt it up to the light, you will be able to see small surface issues. Using external lights as well, like you could see right on the right side of that Pokeball, you see a small little scratch that is going up. That is a surface dink. And so basically you want to use several different light sources. Don't just look at it in the light once and be like, oh, okay, there's nothing on it. Use several different light sources. It will help you determine whether or not the surface is actually good enough for a potential 10. Let's see, looking here, can't necessarily see it with the magnifying glass, but if there's anything that you don't know what it is, go ahead and use a magnifying glass. Sometimes there is spotting and stuff, or there's just weird texture in the cardstock, but right there you could see it going all the way up, and you normally would not be able to see that. So that is a good technique to use. Looking at it in a whole bunch of different light, you'll be able to see scratching and imprints and a whole bunch of other stuff that you normally wouldn't. So let's take a look at this Charmander right here. Using light, you can see that there is a scratch right where the tail is. So it goes from about where the H is, or where the A is, down to the tail, and you could only see it in a very specific angle of light. So looking at it normally, it would look like, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, but the moment you turn it towards the light, you could see that huge scratch going down. Checking the back. The back more or less seems good. It seems like there's something over to the left side. May need to use different light sources for this. So I'm using the top light, and then I'm also using this kind of floodlight that's to the side. So see, there's more scratching that you could see off to the side. Now we have V's. V's are notorious for having bad cuts all the time. The edges are always sucky. Some of the corners on the left and the bottom right can get pretty bad. As you can already see, the top part of the card and the bottom part of the card already have different cuts. So if you use a black surface or a dark surface, you can more or less make out what kind of damage will be on these V cards. Using different light sources as well. You could see on the bottom and even to the top left, you could see some of the stuff. Let me go ahead and check the corners. So that corner looks decent. That's surprising. A lot of the time the top left corner is normally the one that gets dinged the most. We have the right corner, which, you know, there doesn't seem to be any whitening or bad cuts with that. Let's check the bottom right. Let me try to position the light a little bit better so we can actually see this. So looking at the bottom right, oh yeah, that is not a good cut. There's tons of whitening. As you saw, the other two were very crisp. This bottom one, let's see, oh, that one's even worse. You could see some whitening going into the card. So a lot of the time, corners are measured from both front and back. Looking at the back of a card's corners, it will, you know, point out some stuff. But remember that the corners are on both sides. So just make sure that you check both of the corners. And as long as they look relatively good, you should be fine. The edges as well on other cards are kind of a little bit difficult. The V-Stars, I've noticed that the English release has kind of bad edges. Not so much corners, but edges are kind of bad. This is actually a relatively good one. I'm trying to look at the edges, and I don't see necessarily anything wrong with them. Yeah, so there's nothing that I could particularly see at the moment. The surface looks good. Let's see, the right side kind of, but no, this is a relatively good card. Oh, the bottom portion. Yeah, there we go. That bottom portion has whitening and something going on. That's just a bad cut. So a lot of time with bad cuts, it brings the score down, unfortunately. Like, it's out of your control. It could be pack fresh. could be just a bad cut like this, and that's unfortunate. But sometimes, you know, there is lighting issues, so if you have one light source, it may be harder to see. If you look at other cards like reverse holographics, you could see this card looks relatively good. If the surface up even at the ante is scratched, then that will bring it down. I thought I did see a scratch on here. I know that there's some weird type of warping that's going on, like it was being placed on something. So let me see if I can see that and show you guys in this. So if your cards are warped a little bit, there is no reduction of score. It normally does not matter unless there is damage to the card. So the card can be warped with humidity, and more or less, as long as the card's surface condition, corner condition, centering, and edges are all fine, you should be fine, and you don't really have to worry about trying to press the card and potentially damaging it. Unless the warp is really bad. But yeah, so we have a Radiant Steelix right here. The surface type of it is textured. The textured on a lot of the cards, as I said, kind of makes it harder to see whether or not you have damage. Just because there is a lot going on, you can still see damage with them. There will be imprints, there will be scratches. A lot of the damage on the texture cards, believe it or not, comes from the back. A lot of the textures are rigid enough to withstand scratching. For the most part, don't go scratching all your cards, but the back is normally where you'll find it. So like I said before, the light can make it seem like, if you have just one source of light and you don't use multiple, it can make it seem like there's whitening on the edge just because it's rounded and it is glistening. But go ahead and just turn it to the side. Make sure that if you are actually looking at the edge, that the edge itself looks good, that there's no impressions, there's no dings or anything like that, and you should be good. Rule of thumb, I normally do centering on all of the cards first, just because you don't want to look at everything, be like, oh, this card is amazing, and then potentially have bad centering, like this Steelix right here. You could easily tell from left to right that it's off. So the right side looks like maybe 2, and then the right side looks about 2 millimeters. The left side looks about 3. And again, just remember that it doesn't need to be 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, as long as the left and right are the same number and the top and bottom are the same number. So yeah, here is a little ding. This is the Alcremie, by the way. I didn't just do that to the Radiant Steelix. You can see a very small ding. Something happened. I put it down wrong. That's basically how you can find edge damage as well. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. I know my schedule's weird, but thank you all, and I hope this helps you out with getting better scores in sending your cards to get graded. So see you guys next time.